So we just talked about cable being a big disruptor, um, and in terms of devices, we now have these internet-capable televisions and these amazingly realistic high-resolution televisions, HDTV. This shows how many million households by region have these. This was done at the end of 2018, and it's projecting into the future. And you see Asia Pacific is the biggest, and then North America, Latin America, Western Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa. But you're looking at 600 million households having these devices, connected home devices, by the end of 2023. So there we go. Now let's see if I can get this darn thing to change again. Come on. Okay, so we talked about kind of an overall history and evolution of TV, from broadcast, black and white, to color, to cable, to now internet capable televisions and subscription streaming services, etc. How has basic television advertising been bought on the outlets where advertising is available? And like radio, television is sold by day part. Here are the classic definitions of television day parts. And you guys all know, I'm sure, that prime time is called prime time for a reason. That it's the most expensive. It's when you have the highest viewership. That's when the family is, sitting around, with the meatloaf TV dinner on the TV tray. And people call them that, TV trays, so you could have a little table right next to your front of your favorite chair so you could eat and watch whatever you watch. Okay, so it's bought by day part, different prices for different day parts, different audiences for different day parts. Here is another explanation of day parts. This is pulled right from your textbook. It is a very good textbook. It's a couple of years old, but it's not wordy, it's not long, it's very simple, and it's written by somebody who knows what she's doing. So here's some more examples of some day parts breakouts, and below that, by the way, are some basic television program formats. Now, ratings, measurement. So up till now, measurement has been done mostly by a company called Nielsen. And what they did is they picked 5,000 households around the United States and gave them a diary, paid them something, a few $100s a month, I think. And they picked them to be representative of, America, and in terms of demographics and et cetera. And then these people had to keep a log in writing of what they were watching on the TV and who was watching it. The time, the TV program, who was watching. There was a whole format they had to fill out and then send into Nielsen. This now is mostly done by set-top boxes. Again, it's a selected homes. It's it's many thousand sample size. But these set-top boxes provided by Nielsen automatically record what the TV is watching. And then the way they keep track of who is watching is that each family member has his or her own button on top of the set-top box, which they can click when they are watching. And then that goes right to Nielsen. And that's been going on. That's Nielsen. However, I don't know how many of you have a Roku TV or a Vizio TV. There are a couple of different. There's an Amazon TV, I think. These are HD TVs that are appealingly very inexpensive. I went through the very upsetting event of swatting a fly who was sitting on my nice Samsung HD TV. It was a few years old, but it had a great picture. And I decided I wanted to, let him have it with a fly swatter, which I did. And it was effective, except it ruined my TV screen. And so I really didn't want to spend a whole chunk of money, so I ended up buying a Roku TV, 49-inch TV for about $300 and change, I think, on Amazon. Now, why are these Roku and Vizio and Amazon TVs so darn cheap? Well, one reason is they're watching what you're watching all the time. And that viewership data from your TV, they are selling the data to advertisers and different people who want to know more about you and your habits. So just as your activity on your laptop and your mobile is being monitored and that information is sent and sold, the same thing is happening with these TVs. And by the way they do it is that certain pixels on your television set on the screen, and they're pretty much spread across the whole screen. I don't know how many, but let's say it's 50 pixels, are basically kind of plugged in. And whenever you switch a channel, those 50, let's say, pixels register what is on, what color and what is on those pixels for a moment or two. And they then can look through their database of every bloody program that's on the air and see what those pixels match in terms of the visual. And that's how the TV knows what you're watching. So and isn't that where measurement is going, probably? Just as it is with internet and mobile. In terms of at least viewership, if not tracking, clicking, and buying, I can at least see who's watching it across more than 5 or 10,000 people, right? The way Nielsen does it. If these TVs are widespread, and this technology of having the TV track what you're watching becomes widespread, then that's the way measurement will be done, at least on viewership. So getting back to how you buy TV, well, you can go local, you can go national, you can buy network TV, one of the standard networks. You can buy cable networks. Spot TV is buying local markets, but you can also buy local cable. So I can air on any cable network I want to, just in the New York area. By the way, syndication is another part of TV we haven't really talked about yet. But what this means is that it's something different from the networks, and it's different from just spot TV. It's a kind of programming, okay? And these are programs that are created. Wheel of Fortune is one. Okay, it's a huge one. The Oprah Show was syndicated for quite a while. So basically, what happens is a production company produces the show and then sells it to whoever wants to buy it, and all these in local markets. And so that's a syndicated show. So Jeopardy, I think most of the game shows are syndicated. And you can actually buy the syndicated show across a bunch of stations. They'll make it easy for you. You can buy it market by market. And when old shows, sitcoms, etc., sort of are no longer aired on a weekly basis, they're not airing on the network anymore, but there's still a library of lots of shows. Then you will have companies or stations buy the syndication rights to show the reruns. And some people are paying a lot of money for syndicated rights. I think Seinfeld just got bought by, look it up, Google it, somebody for like $500 million or something for the syndication rights to Seinfeld. And Friends, I don't know if you are even familiar with that old show. The syndication rights were sold for that recently too for a lot of money. You remember how radio was sold by area of dominant influence, ADIs, which were determined by Arbitron, kind of the measurement company for radio ratings and geography. So these are DMAs are how TV geography is broken out. And all these colored blotches here across our grand land are different DMAs. So, for instance, the New York DMA is pretty big. It's got Connecticut, Long Island, New Jersey, New York City, and a chunk of New York State. And it's the geography where the TV signal is able to be broadcast. So you buy TV. If you're going to buy spot, you're buying by DMA, designated market area. TV advertising creative is pretty much all pre-recorded video. You don't get live reads too much on TV anymore, the way we saw in the old days when Johnny Carson of The Tonight Show would hold up a can of Alpo dog food after interviewing Zsa Zsa Gabor and say, "Is Rover craving some real beefy treats?" TV hosts, etc., are just a little too cool to do that. As you know, you can still do that on radio and on podcasts, and it's a nice advantage of that audio-only medium. Can't do it on TV, so it's pre-recorded videos. Comes in different time lengths. Used to be 60s commonly on network TV. Now the most common length is 30 seconds, but there are also 10-second and 15-second ads on network TV, and even shorter ads when we start moving to other devices like mobile phones. At one point, you had to prove any claim that you made in an ad. You had to give proof if it was going to air in the networks. So, for instance, when I was an account executive working on Cascade dishwashing detergent, and our ad showed side-by-side glasses, like a glass washed in Electrosol versus a glass washed by Cascade. And the Electrosol glass had spots on it, and the Cascade glass was crystal clear. Procter & Gamble, that makes Cascade, would have to send us via the parcel post FedEx a box of glasses, Cascade wash glasses and Electrosol wash glasses that were carefully washed in the same type of dishwasher, the same temperature water, blah, blah, blah. And we had to choose the Electrosol glass and the Cascade glass. And it was all substantiated, and all that proof and legal mumbo jumbo had to be sent to the network before they would show a competitive ad like that. Honestly, I don't know how much of that's going on anymore, but one thing I can tell you is no political ad has ever been questioned in terms of having to prove that it was accurate. Now, here is a hugely important piece of advice about any TV creative you ever do. Once you've made it, or once you see a rough version of it before you've produced it and spent a lot of money, if you have sort of an animated version of it, turn the sound off. So there are no voices and there's no sound, and watch. Because most of the communication of television, it's a visual medium primarily. The communication is visual, just as it is when you're presenting. Okay, you can talk a blue bloody streak, but people will mostly remember clear-cut images, not words, but images that you show in the background. This, by the way, is why you see lots of political candidates and corporate spokespeople now. When they present, or you're seeing them at their place of work, there's always a backdrop, pretty much, with the name of the company or maybe some kind of slogan on it. Just watch and be aware of that, because they're trying to get the brand name across and some branding. They want a visual